Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. With me on the show this week is Daphney Poyser. Daphney is the CEO of Fern Connections. They are an LGBTQIA plus and ally matchmaking company, which means it doesn't matter if you are straight, gay, lesbian, queer, black, white, trans. They will help you find a match as long as you're an ally, as long as you're not an a-hole or a jerk, right? Daphney is also a relationship coach, and she has an insanely innovative approach to all of this. She deals with monogamous people, non-monogamous people, polyamorous people, and the way she does it, I think, is so rock and roll. It's so refreshing. She talks with me about her thoughts on where dating is, bashing societal norms, and of course, one of my favorite topics, how she feels about the dating apps. So, without further ado, this is my conversation with Daphney Poyser.
This week's conversation.
Daphney Poyser, welcome to Sex Party. How are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, why not have a sex party on a Friday, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's casual Friday around here, but I feel like I'm always in casual lately. Like, I used to wear suits and rock the nightclub stuff, and now I'm just like in the house doing podcasts all the time in sweatshirts. So casual Friday, sex party Friday. They'll be listening to this on a Wednesday. So it's a big mess and it all works out, right? Okay. So I'm incredibly intrigued at who you are and what you do from what I've been able to glean from the internet, our favorite place. But for the people who don't know you, they've never heard your name, seen your face, heard your voice, right? Could you talk a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, first I'm going to say shame on y'all for not knowing who I am. But no, I am
They will after this.
They will, yes. I'm Daphney and I own a company called Fern Connections. It is a LGBTQ plus and ally matchmaking, coaching, and events company that is located and started out of Dallas, Texas. And now we service people all across the country.
That's amazing. And do you just work with LGBTQIA people, or is it everyone?
As long as they're allies, I'm cool. I don't work with everyone. I can't.
Well, yeah. I don't blame you. Yeah, I mean, so if you go to your website, right, and I won't read the whole thing, but this is what like hit me like in between the eyes, and I was like, I have to have her on the show. You talked about, your experience of trying to find a partner, good dates, like compatible, smart people that you could talk with and have connection with or whatever. And, you talk about your frustration after so many months of using multiple apps. And you sort of, and you're going to put this all in your own words, because I'm not just going to bumble through this and ruin it. But some of the things that you said you decided to start your own matchmaking business for people who want to love whoever and however they please, and not to have to be tied to societal norms. Okay, right there, you're on the right show. Okay, we hate societal norms. Okay, and then you go on to say that you in your mind, the new normal is open for people to date someone outside of their race, someone of the same sex, someone who is much younger or older, or even someone who has different viewpoints, religious beliefs, and backgrounds. Okay. Tell me more, because that to me, like when I read that, I had like a Dustin moment, which is like, I felt really like excited, and yet I knew sort of, I never know where these episodes are going to go. And I just had this, I felt a pull, and I was like, we have to dive in right away to that, because I think there's so many people out there that are tied up in whatever they're tied up in, shame or fear or whatever. And you like saying that, like, it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe, you could find a partner that's totally different, believes other things, looks a different way. So I just take that and run with it, please. I want to stop talking.
That is really where we started. I just think that there's a lot of, and since you said I can curse, I'm going to curse. I think there's a lot of bullshit out there, right? And people trying to tell people what they can and cannot do. And people trying to say, okay, this is, what we do, right? What we do is the exception. Why is me wanting to date someone who is not my same race or someone who's the same sex? Why is that an exception, right? Why do other people get to choose what's an exception for me or, the people that I work with, right? And it even goes to like being like in open relationships and polyamory and all that other stuff, right? It's like there's so many ways to do relationships and that's how we started, right? We started with like, don't tell me who I can date, right? Don't tell me who I can be with. I want to decide that for myself, right? I don't want someone else. I'll be honest with you. We've all been there, at least most of us, where we have like this peer pressure and people are like trying to tell us, who we can be and who we can't, right? And to me, that is like crap. It's just like, don't tell me what I can do because I don't really care, right?
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me, right, of like when I read that bio, it was like rock and roll to me. Like I could hear like Led Zeppelin or whatever the fuck band, like whatever, I could hear a jazz, right? I could hear like the rebellion in that, and I just, if you've listened to or watched the show at all, that's what we're about, right? And I named the show Sex Party for that reason, because it's, yes, we do talk about gangbangs, and yes, we do talk about, polyamory and like all of these things and the wild shit, and there's adult film stars that are on every once in a while or whatever. But like, to me, it's all the same. And I wanted to kind of scare people with that title. So I kind of feel like I saw a little bit of what I was trying to do in what you're actually doing. And it just made me feel like so excited to have you on. I wonder, like, could we go back to like the very beginning? Because in the beginning of like your bio, you do talk about how you were trying to date, right? And you were open to dating people that were different than you or the same as you or whatever. So what was that experience like? Do you identify as LGBTQIA, or are you whatever? Like, tell me everything. Cause I want to know what that felt like being frustrated, trying to find, cause I think that's a big part of not only this episode, but what's happening is people are really in trouble out there in the dating world.
Well, in the beginning, I did hire my own matchmaker, right, to try to find, someone for me. I'm not queer. I am an ally, but I do own a queer-owned business. I'm in a queer business, right? I do have a kid that's actually queer and other people in my family that are queer. Some of the people who work with me are also queer, right? And so, for me, it's really not about like, how you identify, right? Because, you can just, be non-binary and just be who you are, right? So to me, it's more about like, we're all human beings and we get to make the choices for ourselves, right? Now, when I started looking for a matchmaker, and I tell this story all the time, I was literally told no one's going to want to, we can't find you anyone. You're a Black woman, you're in Texas, you own this queer-owned business, right? And no one's going to want to match with you because, we're in a conservative space, and let me tell this story because I think it's so effed up, right? It's like the story is that this person is telling me I can't find you anyone because you're a Black woman and you're a certain age and you own this queer-owned business. Now this person is like running to the church, like, okay, let the church say amen. But the church every Sunday with their partner that they're living in, that they're shacking up with. But it's okay for you to be that person, but it's not okay for me to be, who I am, right? Does that make sense, right? So you're going to tell me I'm not, matchable because of what I do and who I am. But yet you're over here doing the same kind of trifling stuff that you're calling out for me, right? And I'm
Yeah.
not even doing anything trifling. I'm just doing what I do. But when you start like trying to judge people based on who they are and what they do, that's when, for me, it's like, I just need to like, say what I need to say, right? And that's kind of why we do what we do as a business. And we not only just work with like queer people, but we work with people who are like, straight or straight presenting who, maybe looking for, open relationships or polyamory, or maybe they are like people who cross dress, right? But they also consider themselves straight, or maybe they're asexual, whatever that is, right? And so we get to work with a lot of different people, and people come to us for this reason, is because we're not judging them based on who they are and how they decide to live their lives, right? That's really their decision. It's not anybody else's.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, that's amazing, and we're gonna dissect that because I think that's fucking gorgeous. I think that is some of there's been a lot said on my show. I'm super lucky to have people who are willing to come talk to me on my crazy show, and they all are intelligent, and the audience knows I'm incredibly picky about who I have on the show, and I think what you just said is probably one of the coolest, like most defining sound bites that I've ever had on this podcast. So thank you for that. And we're gonna get to it, but I also want to ask, what did it feel like to have someone you hired to find you a partner, right? Or some dates, at least, you can go out and get some drinks at least. Geez, right? Maybe to tell you that you were it wasn't going to happen because of this, and this, and you're not good. Did that make you angry, sad, motivated, all three?
Yeah, all of the above. So let's talk about it. So I hired someone, and after I hired them, they told me they couldn't find me anybody, right? And then I interviewed with another matchmaker, thinking, okay, well, if they can't help me, maybe somebody can help me, right? And this is the one who told me, I can't find you anyone because of who you are and what you do, right? And I thought, wow. So this person didn't even want my money. They were like, I'm not even going to take your money because I can't help you, right? Whereas the other, folks did take my money, and then all of a sudden they couldn't help me, right? And to be honest with you, that is really one of the drivers for why I started my business. Because I don't want to have to tell people I can't help you. Now, do I help everybody? No, because I don't think everybody needs my help. And if you're not the kind of person who aligns, with the values that I have and the beliefs that I have, for my business and my company and myself, then I can't work with you. That's why I said I don't work with everybody, right? There's some people that, to me, they don't match up with what we're trying to do, right? So it's just not going to work. So there's no need to try to work with people who, to me, they're just going to frustrate the hell out of me every day. And that's not something I want.
Yeah, I mean, who would want that? Because that's yeah, you don't need that. And the space that you work, it was born out of frustration. It was born out of like, wait a minute, that's wrong. That's whatever. And yet you have to have, like, I would imagine, like a clear, open mind. You don't need somebody who's just some a-hole like pestering you, like why they don't have enough dates or whatever. I mean, what were your reactions to these people? Like, how did you react to them? I mean, what did you say when they said these shitty things?
Really, it was more about, what, I can do this myself. I really don't need your help, right? So I'm just going to go find, my own people, which is what I did, and actually it was like a driver for me in the sense that, if you're not going to help me, then I'm going to figure it all out for myself. And so I decided to become a matchmaker. I was, doing a lot of research in the beginning. And, I found my own people. I literally created a process to be able to help people to navigate dating apps so that they could find better people, better qualified people on dating apps, right? But then, of course, I'm a matchmaker and a dating coach and a relationship coach. And so I found my own people and my own person on a dating app, right? So it's like, but, I can do that as a dating coach and a matchmaker. And so it just helped me to like want to, go out there and prove to people, like I want to say F you, because of the fact that it's like, who are you to tell me that nobody wants to date me? And let's just be really raw real quick, right? I had this conversation a couple of months ago where some people were saying in this wonderful industry that I am, that nobody wants to date Black women. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Nobody wants to date. Now let's throw another layer on it. Nobody wants to date Black women who are curvy, Black women who are a certain age. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So you're in an industry telling me as a Black woman who's curvy and of a certain age that nobody wants me. So that's the kind of stuff that just motivates me to want to like figure it all out and make it work. So it's not it's not just one person, right? There's a whole bunch of people with the same mentality.
Well, you're a Black woman in America. I mean, I can't even fathom the negativity that comes with just that alone, let alone in the dating and relationship space. But to me, again, like this is how you turned it, how you use that as not just motivation, but like literal juice to power this machine that you have now. And so do you think that you would be doing what you're doing if these people didn't piss you off and be dicks?
I would be doing what I'd be doing anyways, just because it's what I want to do. But it doesn't hurt. Let me just say this. I mean, it is disappointing. It is frustrating, right? But it doesn't hurt me to, hear bullshit like that. I mean, I've heard bullshit a long time, I'm not foreign to like people and their bullshit. So that's not something that bothers me. What bothers me is just the audacity of people to think that, I'm not good enough or someone else isn't good enough. And it doesn't matter if you're queer, if you're straight or whatever that is, but for someone to like, see you as a secondary, person. And it's like, I can't be primary because I'm Black. I can't be primary because I'm queer, right? I mean, whatever that is, I mean, that's where the bullshit really comes in. It's like, you're trying to tell me that I can't be seen and I can't be heard because of who I am and what I do and how I live my life.
So, because you have this amazing quote, right? And I want to kind of link these things on your Instagram. Finding love starts with finding out who you are and becoming the person your heart needs you to be in order to accept the love you truly deserve. Okay, boom, right? That's like a mic drop right there within itself. And I was going to save it till later in the show, but that quote combined with what you just said, what do you say when someone comes to you and has had a similar experience as you? Like, is the quote what you say first? Because that seems like a foundational thing to finding love and whatever, but how do you get rid of that? Because I would imagine people are coming to you and they're like, oh, thank God, someone who's smart and gets it and is willing to help me. She's been through it. I mean, how do you address maybe the trauma that they've gotten from the world and other matchmakers and shitty dates and all those things?
Yeah. And that's where like the coaching piece comes in, right? So basically to me, it's like, I have to make sure people are ready for dating, right? I have to make sure they're ready for relationships. And if they aren't, then that's where the coaching comes in. And I would rather coach people to be ready than to like just try to like make money on matching them. And then, them not being able to like really be in a relationship. And that's the other part of what I do is that like I may match someone, but I'm also there to help them like build something with someone. It's not like, people think, I mean, matching is fun. Dates are fun, right? That's the fun stuff. But when someone, like is 30 days in or 60 days in and shit starts to come up, because it's going to come up, right? Then you want someone you can talk to, someone who can help you, who can guide you. I mean, that's the stuff that I do, for my clients, especially those that are the most challenging to match, right? Is getting them ready today. Because what people don't realize, there are a lot of folks out there, like in the queer community, that haven't really been on a lot of dates. They haven't really, been in serious relationships. And some straight people who haven't either, that I don't care, how old they are. There are people who have just never, been able to find someone to stick long enough to make it work, right? And so that's the stuff that I do to help them. But I do believe that you have to like love yourself, right? That doesn't mean like you get to like decide that nobody else is worthy of you. It just means that you are confident in who you are and you know what you're looking for. And, and that kind of stuff, like if you don't have it, you need someone who has your back, right? Who can help you get there. And that is really what I do, that I don't talk about a lot, which is the coaching stuff that I do, especially for people in the trans community who already are up against a wall, right? It's one thing to be bisexual and it's one thing to be a lesbian, hell, or to be a gay man. But when we start talking about people who are trans and non-binary or gender fluid, I mean, it adds a whole layer of complexity for people that a lot of people don't even get, right? It's like they don't even understand what it means. And so that's where having someone like myself and being, having a team of people who are educated and aware, and know how to work with people, that are different in a way that others can't, right? And that's what we do. And that's really what separates my business from other like LGBTQ plus matchmakers and stuff, is because a lot of them, I hate to say it, don't get it. They really don't.
Well, I mean, shots fired. I mean, but rightfully so. I mean, good for you. Fire more shots. I mean, you're right, because I think what you're doing is incredibly innovative, but it shouldn't be, right? It should be like this sort of thing where we just accept that people have feelings that they can't quite even explain why they feel a certain way for somebody, but it's there and they want to address it. But instead, this, this society culture, even bullshit, it like, no, just suppress that. No, keep suppressing it or whatever. And so that's where we get into trouble. And like, we talk about that a lot on this show. I mean, the complexity of dating just by itself. I mean, just a man and a woman, that's more difficult. I mean, are there any, well, first of all, what I want to ask you, because that seems like a secondary question, what I was just going to ask. So we'll save that one. So what I was going to ask you first is, say someone isn't ready to get into it, because I know what that's like. I spent a couple years myself where I'm like, no, I just wasn't there. And there was no way during that time that if I'd gone on a date that it would have, I just wasn't open to a relationship. I just wasn't. And I would voice that and it would be kind of a weird thing. And then all of the things that come with that, why I would still go out with someone, I don't know, but like I would be honest about it. So I know what that's like not to be ready. So when you have someone that comes to you and they're not quite there yet, what does that look like, right? And is there like a checklist that you're like, hey, until you have these 4 things, right? I don't think you should be in the dating scene. I think you're going to be chaotic or what, like, how do you handle that?
That's a good question. I actually was just talking to someone about this the other day. It's like when people come to me, like if they're coachable, right? And it's like, when you go to work, and people are like, okay, can you be coachable? Because if you're coachable, I can work with you. I can help you. But if you're like this idiot, and this asshole that doesn't want to listen, then I have to let you go, right? And that's why I said I can't work with everybody. But what I'm finding is that, people know their shortcomings a lot of times, right? To your point, they know like, okay, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for that. And one of the things that I'm a big proponent of, and, if you're not ready for dating, if you're not ready for being in a relationship, and you just want to hook up with people, honey, just tell people you want to hook up with them. Be honest with people and say, this is what I want. Now, what they do with that on the flip side is up to them, but at least you're being very honest and transparent about it. And there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I'm not ready for any of that, right? Now, I do believe that if people, because sometimes people, especially in the hetero world, and sometimes like with other people, but it's like people want to be in this gray area and they want to just keep like going, hoping that something's going to come out of it, right? And it really doesn't happen that way. And it's like, so you have to be realistic. But my thing is like, it's okay to like not want to be in a relationship, but for me, when it comes to how do I help people, it really is about, are they coachable? Are they wanting help? Are they willing to listen? Right? Now, me, I'm more of a like direct, I'm going to tell you like it is, girl, right? I'm not going to bullshit people. I'm going to be, kind and thoughtful and diplomatic in the delivery, of the message, but I'm not going to BS people because, I work with people sometimes that, they want to listen. And when they want to listen, and then we can move forward, right? And I can coach them through how to date people. One of the things that I do for my clients, especially when they first come to me, before they even go on a date, I coach them about like, these are the things you say. These are the things you don't say, because you'd be surprised. I don't care how old people are, right? People don't know how to date. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to communicate effectively. They don't know what to say, right? So that they can continue to date someone. So I literally coach them so that they can be successful, in at least their first date, second date, whatever that is, right? But if they're not ready, and I had a conversation with someone about this yesterday, that I don't think you're ready. I think that you got too many hangups and you need to work on those hangups, like go back to therapy. And I'm good with that, like telling someone you should go back to therapy or you should go get some therapy so that you can work through, the traumas and the childhood issues or the past relationship issues that you have. Because if you're not good with yourself, and that kind of goes back to that quote, if you're not good already with yourself, right, then how are you going to be good for somebody else? And so I'm okay with, and I've had people where I'm like, look, if I can't coach you, I can't work with you. And they walked away. And I'm okay with that. I have a saying also that I'm okay with people walking away from me. I'm going to let them go. It's quite okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that seems like part of your innovative approach is that you accept that not everybody, whether that's a romantic partner for yourself or business partner or client, like I think you're right. Like once you accept that, like, hey, I don't control anyone or anything. So like, I think that's huge. And a lot of people can't accept that, they just want to always have control over the situation and then possibly the person too. And I think that right there for me is something I remember like unlearning in the last 10 years. It's like, hey, no, people are going to do what people are going to do and you're not going to stop them. So like, I think that knowing that makes you incredibly good at what you do as well too, because I think that's really, really smart. But it's also hard to learn. People are like, no, what do you mean? Like, again, the overconfidence, cockiness kind of thing.
Yeah. And let me just say this whole bullshit about the heart wants what the heart wants, right? I mean, that is like, I'm just going to say some of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard. And so it's like, just because you think you want someone, right, doesn't mean they want you, right? So trying to like, play this game as to, I have to be with this person because that's what my heart wants. It's a two-way street. And if someone doesn't want you, just like walk away, right? Just leave them alone.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think that is? Like, is that something from society or childhood that makes us want to hang on like that? What is that?
No, I think that's like wanting to control people and like some narcissistic bullshit that people think
Mm,
that I can. And I think you said it like people, you don't own people. Even in relationships, we don't own people. The only people we own are ourselves, right? And so you can't control people in that way. You can't possess people, and we can't own people. And when people start playing these games and trying to like convince someone that you should be with me because, right? If it's money, if it's fame, whatever that is, it's not going to work. So it's like, just leave those folks alone and find somebody who really wants to be with you.
yeah, no, I mean, you're right. It is entirely ego, and the Disney movies don't help because they just like pump that like you're meant to be.
No, it's not the Disney movie. It's like the Hallmark movies. The Hallmark
Oh
movies
yeah,
don't help, right? It's like all the
yeah.
stuff. Have you ever noticed, like, this is a question for you. Have you ever
Hmm.
noticed, like, at the end of the Hallmark movie, there's always one kiss or so, right? It's like, what happened to making out long before you get to the end, right? It just doesn't seem realistic to me. So I just
No,
needed
I
to point that
mean,
out.
yeah, and before you can like, I just feel like who's not having sex before they're like running off to getting married, like being what that's not realistic. Like even, I mean, they can show like ruffled sheets or something. There can be a little wink and a nod, even though it's Hallmark. Like, come on, like you don't have to
Yeah,
get
I mean,
spicy, but like let's get a little cayenne pepper in there.
I think they could use a little spice.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I have to touch on this because it's a personal thing, and I'm keeping with the continuity of the show. And the audience is like already rolling their eyes because I bring this up every now and then, but I want to get your professional opinion on it, right? So there was a time in my life where I had multiple women that I had told, "Hey, I'm not in this for a relationship." And we kept seeing each other. There was three or four of them, and they knew there were other women or whatever. But what happened is, and you talked about that gray area, where they think they can change a person or they can whatever. And so at a certain point, and a couple months down the road, all three or four of them were like crying and angry, and I love you and you did this to me and I hate you and you led me on, right? And so I'm not going to ask directly, hey, is that my fault or like or whatever, but I spent a long time feeling bad about it, and I've had relationship coaches like yourself on the show who have said multiple, like, well, you kind of were, or they, if you told them, then that you're in the clear. So what's your position on this?
It can go two ways, right? I think that as long as you're honest up front, right? Then that's all that really matters. It's like, what happens with people, they catch feelings, right? And, they say this stuff like, oh, I'm good. It's going to be okay. No, I can handle this, right? And then a couple of months in, they catch feelings, right? Now, is it wrong to date multiple people at the same time? Of course not. Is it even wrong to have sex with multiple people at the same time? Of course not. As long as you're using protection and everybody understands this is what's going on, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that when people have to be honest, and it seems like you were honest with them, but they weren't honest with themselves and they weren't honest with you. And then so like 3 months in, they're all like, oh, but I love you and I just want to. But if you were saying all along, I'm not looking for monogamy, I'm not looking for a relationship, then that's not on you, right? Now, at some point in time, I'm sure you walked away from that, right? Because it probably became very chaotic and you had to walk away, right? Whether or not you keep one person, or you keep a couple of people on the side, that's really up to you. I work with people who are into open relationships, who are into polyamory. And so I always say to people, like, if you're going to do that, define it and be very open, with your communication. And it sounds like that's what you did, right? But for
Yeah.
me, I, I don't have a problem with that, right? I mean, people catch feelings all the time, even if they say they just want to be friends. And this whole situation with, being friends with benefits, right? People, have this crazy idea, especially in the hetero world. women, I hate to say it, straight women, they just think, okay, if I keep doing these things, then he'll see me for who I am. And I talked about this in a video not too long ago, but it's not really true. Because if someone, this is what I believe, right? If someone tells me over and over and over, I'm not looking for monogamy, I'm not looking for a relationship. If someone keeps telling you that, you should believe them, because that's the truth, right? And there is no changing someone's mind when it comes to stuff like that. So that's my take on it. So
yeah, well, I wonder. I mean, was there a certain point where maybe I should have noticed they're starting to act a little love struck? I should cut this off. Like, would that be on me as well? Or because I don't know. I've analyzed this situation so many times, and there was a long period of time where I kind of isolated myself, cut myself off, and they know this already, and they're like, "Shut up, dude, get back to the interview." And we will, but I want to explore some of this with smart people like you, and so. Should I be looking in those situations? Should I have been looking for signs of it's time to cut this off?
Well, and a really big sign is when people start to want to hog your attention and your time, right? When that's the biggest sign for me is and because people can kind of try to hide their feelings, their emotions, right? Even though they're crying in their pillow at night, but they're not showing that to you. But when they start trying to monopolize your time and your energy, that's when those are the signs that you want to watch out for. Because what happens is that, say, for instance, you've seen one person on Wednesday, and then you've seen another person on Thursday, and you hung out with somebody else on Saturday, right? Right. And you try to keep all of that even based on who you like the most. And let me just be honest, honey, there's always somebody we like the most, right? And somebody that we really want to spend time with. And those are to me, those people are the ones who make our lives easier, right? It's they're not trying to make demands on me, but they're still fun and we're having a good time. And so there's always those folks, right? But what happens is that, okay, so you already have this schedule every week of how who you hang out with. And then all of a sudden, person number one, was what are you doing on Wednesday? And you're like, well, I already have plans on Wednesday, but I'd like to see you on Wednesday. Those are the red flags you have to watch out for.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, my thing was I'd be out with Thursday, right? And Friday would be texting, right? And Thursday started noticing me in my phone, and she's like, "Oh," made a comment about it. I'm like, "Okay, that's the first time that's happened. Red flag." But I just was like, "Hey, I'm not interested." So I went back to the original agreement, "Hey, I'm not interested in a relationship." And so it was those things that I got hung up on with my guilt later on. During the pandemic, I felt oh my God, I've caused all of this damage or whatever. And eventually, just before, the first couple episodes of the podcast came out, I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. Fuck it. I was honest. It's the best I can do, whatever. Plus, I'm pretty sure that one of these women created a hair doll or a voodoo doll or something from
They
me. So
cast a spell on you. So
yeah.
let me
Get out of here.
Let me say this. I mean, if you're going to be in situationships, let's just call them that, with people, multiple people, then I would say just be respectful and be, aware of if you're with one person and you're texting another person, right? It is a little disrespectful, regardless of, whether or not, you've identified the situation. People are going to get into their feelings, and they're going to get, emotional and sensitive about stuff like that. So it's okay, if when we're together, we're together. I don't expect you to text some other chick or some other girl, because this is our time that we're spending together. Now, what that means to you, maybe you text them as soon as they leave, as soon as they hit the door, but you're still being respectful to the person that you're with at the time, right? And I'm telling you, there's these ways to solve a lot of this stuff, right? And you just have to I hate to say it, but it's a game, and you have to be able to play the game the right way. So if as long as you're being honest and you're being transparent, that's cool. But you also want to be respectful, right? Because otherwise, that's when people get really, really upset, right? It's like, okay, why are you texting that person when you're with me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I totally fumbled on that one. But that's a beautiful thing to say, because I think you're not bullshitting it. You're not sugarcoating it. You just said you hate to say it, but it's a game. This is how you play it. I can help you win, but you got to be respectful. You got to be honest. Like, those are tenets that you really can't get past. I think every quote I've read from you starts with this honesty with self, and also this honesty with what you want, and then being honest about that with other people, and also being sensitive enough to not text your other side person, like whatever,
Yeah.
right? So I'm definitely guilty of that. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't think everyone's meant to be in a relationship, and I don't think everyone's meant to be monogamous. I don't think it's necessary. I think that, as long as we're like I said, being respectful, right? We're being honest, we're being transparent, then that's what's important. And I'll share this because I share this all the time. When I was younger, I dated multiple people at the same time, like 4 or 5 people. Now, someone would say that's like a hoe, but I don't believe that's being a hoe. That's being like, this is who I am, right? Because I can't get what I need from one person. So I'm going to date multiple people for different reasons. Maybe because one is intelligent and he's a great communicator. Maybe because one, is financially stable and that's what I like, or that's what I liked at the time, and that's okay. But I was very transparent with all of them that I'm dating multiple people. I'm okay with even saying this. I had sex with multiple people, and I was very transparent about that and very honest. But when I was with one person, I was with one person, right? I didn't okay, I'm going to tiptoe over here and have a conversation with this other person while this other person is over here doing this, right? That's where I think people get caught up, right? And they get caught in awkward situations. But there's nothing wrong with not being monogamous. There's nothing wrong with having multiple, people that you're in relationship with, right? And let me just say this, because people get caught up on that word relationship. It doesn't matter what type of relationship it is, if it's friends with benefits, situationship, a friendship, a romantic relationship, a long-term, it's a relationship, right? And people can spin that and call it a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, anytime you're in constant communication and relations with someone, it's a relationship. That's what it is.
No, I love that. I mean, this episode is so full of there's gonna be so many good clips that come out from this, 'cause you just keep knocking them out. It's amazing, and it's really good, valuable stuff, but it's put into these actual you can take that and use that tonight when you go out. I mean, we said it's Friday when we're recording this, so hey, now you have a little bit of a battle plan, y'all. So thank you for that. I really, really appreciate that. So your business, matchmaker, relationship coach. You also said you match people in the polyamorous world, right? So I want to how does that work? So if you offer these 2 different services, right? And so some people come to you just for the relationship coaching, right? And then some people come to you for matchmaking. And then do people come to you for both as well?
Yes. So basically people come to me. When people come to me, I automatically coach them anyways, right? So if they're coming to me for matchmaking, I'm going to coach them for dating, right? If they and at some point, once they've entered into a relationship, we switch that to relationship coaching, right? Now, when some people come to me, like say for instance, they're in an open relationship or they're wanting an open relationship, my recommendation is always this, let's start with a primary and then let's build from there, right? But we always have a game plan. We always talk about what are your requirements? What are you looking for? So that way, when I'm interviewing people for them, for this secondary person or this primary person, I can communicate that effectively to say, okay, now this person would like to have a primary, but eventually they're going to be interested in an open relationship. Are you cool with that? Right. And this is what they're looking for. Does that mean that both sides have to be open? That's a decision that can be made later, but it really is like, this is what's going to happen. Now, some people come to me just for polyamory, because maybe they're queer and they want, maybe they're bisexual or pansexual and they're looking for someone, to fulfill what they're missing in their primary relationship, right? With the person they're with. So there's a lot of different things, right? And for me, that's why I'm saying that I don't believe everybody is built for monogamy, and I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. So how prevalent in today's dating relationship world is polyamory, would you say? Or non-monogamy?
Yeah, it's still up in the air, right? I think there's a lot of people out there that because of society, right, we want to hide, we want to still be behind closed doors, in the closet, right, when we shouldn't have to be. But it's based on the fact that people are still trying to call us out. People are still trying to shame us for who we are. And so a lot of people, they're still, I hate to say it, they're still on the down low, even when it comes to being in ethically non-monogamous relationships or just non-monogamous relationships overall, because it's not typical. People frown on that. Okay. I always say to the matchmaker industry that I'm in, ask the questions, ask people, what are you into? Don't just make an assumption that just because I'm straight, that's all I'm into, right? Because a lot of people, and this is where for me, it's very important that we allow people to be who they are, right? So if someone's bisexual, hell, just let them be bisexual. Don't try to okay, I can only match you up with a hetero male because you're a woman, right? A cis woman, when maybe that person is open to other people, right? And open to other things. But if you don't ask the question, you'll never know. And that's where I come in to be able to say, look, I'm cool with this, right? There is no shaming of who you are.
Yeah, I mean, and that seems to be the nucleus, right, of your business, is that it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, where, unless you're a fucking idiot or an asshole,
Exactly.
like
You
those are
took the words out of my mouth.
yeah,
You're an
you
idiot.
can't. There's no
Yeah.
helping stupid, right? And I'm sorry to say, there are some people out there that are just fucking stupid, right? That are ignorant, right? And whatever. So you can't help somebody who's hateful. You can't help somebody who doesn't accept that people are going to be people. And at the end of the day, who the fuck is the bisexual person or the trans person hurting? Nobody. You're just threatened by it because you got something else going on, right? That's
Right.
how I see it, at least. And so that's, there has to be some exclusions, right? Okay, so do you match couples? Like if a couple comes to you and they want to open their relationship, will you match a couple with another person or another couple? Or
yeah,
and how's is that difficult?
I don't know that it's difficult, because the thing that we do, and if you've seen us on Instagram, we don't mind asking for what and who we're looking for, right? And so in the beginning, it was probably more challenging because people thought we were weird. They're like, what are they doing? But, now people expect that from us. People come to us for this reason, right? And so I have, some wonderful matchmaking colleagues. When someone comes to them and they're looking for, polyamory, they'll a lot of times come to me, right? And it doesn't matter if people are queer or not. It's just that, this is what we do. Because what people don't realize, not everybody labels themselves as queer just because, they're into, different things. Maybe they like to dabble in same sex sometimes or whatever that is, right? But they're not labeling themselves. And what I consider that as people who are straight presenting, right? And those straight presenting people, I mean, they like a lot of different things, right? And to me, that's where we come in. It's to be able to help people. So no, it's not hard, right? because we're okay with asking for who we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I can't express enough like how cool what you do is, and the fact that you're so upfront, I think is what drew me and it's drawing me to you more and more. Like going through your Instagram, interviewing you, I'm like, man, like this is like, I don't know. To me, what you're doing feels like 20, 30 years down the road, and you're doing it now, and I can't think of a better time in history to have something that's what you're doing is needed, right? So can you think of a situation, it can be anything, where it just was like really difficult for whatever reason, because I want people to get an idea of just how challenging. I mean, yes, fun, I'm sure rewarding, and you can speak to those things as well. But like a client or a couple or whomever, where you're just like, wow, this person checks all the boxes. They're ready to date, or they're ready to open or whatever they want. We can help them with that. But it was just very difficult because I just don't want people to think that matchmaking is just like this. Hey, we're gonna do, or whatever.
No, especially matchmaking in this demographic, right? But I want to say something, I get hate mail like everybody else. So, I get hate messages sometimes on Instagram or whatever it is, right? Facebook, like especially around the holidays, people start to expressing their hate for what I do. And I really don't care, right? I wish that people understood that, we have the right to be whoever we want. So I mean, let me talk about like when it's difficult. And I never hide this. My trans clients are the most difficult ones to match, right? Especially when it comes to trans women who want to date straight or cisgendered men, right? And or straight presenting. That's probably the hardest thing. And the other thing that makes this really hard is when people, even though they come to me, they pay their money, they don't believe that they're matchable, right? They don't believe that someone would want to be with them, either because they're older or because of, how they identify, right? Or how they look, and one of the cool things that we get to do is that we help people. We do what we call image consulting, right? Say, for instance, if someone's in need of like, okay, let me help you to present yourself in a better way, because my goal is to be able to match you, and I have to be able to present you in the best ways possible, right? And so we help people with stuff like that so that, they can be their best selves, right? And so, but a lot of times people who come to me, they're not the ones that are like extroverts. They're the ones that are introverted, that are shy, that don't know how to go out and find people. They don't know how to use dating apps effectively, right? And let me just say, yes, they are a little nerdy, but let me just say this, because I want people to know that doesn't mean that they're like jacked up and fucked up. That just means that, they know who they are, and people are shy, and they're not always able to put themselves out there like other people. And sometimes people think that the people who come to matchmakers are the ones who are like ugly and whatever. And I hate to use that word, but that's what people think, right? It's like, okay, they're fat, they're ugly, nobody wants them. No, I have some very attractive people in my database, and they're very successful, right? And for people who, like myself, I'm like nerdy as hell, right? I mean, and I'm shy, other than when I'm doing what I do for work. A lot of times I'm very shy. So I know how to help those kind of people, It's like, makeup, hair, all the shit that people need, honey. I mean, it's out there. There's like, we're not recreating the wheel. We're just like dusting it off and polishing it up and making it look good. That's it. And so we make people feel welcome. We make them feel, seen, heard, all the things, right? So that we can get them matched up with other people who want to be seen and heard and all the stuff. So that's it.
No, that's amazing. And I have a question on the reverse of what I just asked you, but so you could put that up here and start thinking of some sort of answer, right? But before I ask that, you did mention the dating apps, and I'm so glad you did, because before we're getting to the end of the episode and before I let you go, I so have to ask you, I mean, as someone who's a matchmaker, as someone who's a relationship coach, who's doing all of the innovative shit that you're doing, as an intelligent person, all of those hats you wear, right? What do you think of dating apps, honestly? And do you think, because this is the debate we have on the show all the time, are you a fan? Are you not? Do you think there's components that are missing on purpose so they can sell us more, chic razors or whatever the hell?
Let me just say, I always say this, I have a love-hate relationship. I believe dating apps can work for people if they know how to work them, right? But I mean, and I actually coach some of my clients on how to use them effectively. Do I think all dating apps are equal? No. I think that some of them are like, you know, I would say a waste of fucking time, right? It's like, and if you have to know how to use dating apps effectively, but they're not for everybody. And I'll tell you why. People of color have the worst time on dating apps. And it doesn't matter if you're straight or queer, whatever. And people of a certain age, I think sometimes don't even know what to do with dating apps, right? And then there are people who are queer who, people just want to like mistreat them and think that, what, this is just some, game that they're playing and I can just, screw them over, screw with their minds and stuff. So dating apps are not for everybody. And what I say to people, especially free dating apps, if you're going to be on a dating app, pay for it, find a good dating app that works for you, use one or two, but all this stuff about, and I get in trouble sometimes. I don't give a shit about OkCupid and I don't care about Tinder. And I've said it before, there's a few apps that I recommend to my clients and to people, but there's just some apps that, even though I have people say, oh, I found somebody on Tinder, the likelihood of that is very, very low, right? So I recommend that if you're going to use them, pay for the preferences, pay for the services, protect yourself, right? I have to be on dating apps all the time. I'm on them right now because of my clients. I'm helping them. But for just your normal person, no. I mean, it's like mind blowing, right? And it drains you and it makes you feel like you're less than who you are. So I really do have a love-hate relationship with dating apps.
Yeah, me too. When I was single, it was just a nightmare, first of all. And especially like into 2021, 2022, everything changed. Because before you could just go on there and just like have a date, get laid, go for, just people were just like kind of hooking up, right? And then, COVID, the people who were on dating apps seemed like they were like, no, I need something serious. So that was like a sort of a switch or whatever, but they are a bit of a minefield. And also, I mean, incredibly dead on. You have to pay for that shit. You can't use the free version is just going to like mess up your life. It's going to free Tinder is going to mess up your life. You need to pay for whatever. Is there one dating app and I know it's like different dating apps for different people, but like, is there one that stands out to you that's like gets the gold star?
The only one that I recommend all the time is Hinge, right? And I recommend that to most of my clients, but it really does depend on who they are. Sometimes Match.com is good for people, right? And sometimes, I found that it's for my clients, right? It's good for like, lesbian women, queer women. I'm not sure about gay men, right? And I know there's different apps out there. But I like Hinge probably the most across the board. And Bumble, I think, used to be a great app when it started, and now it's become a little bit of a shit show.
Oh my God, we agree on so much. What do you think about Tinder doing Tinder Select, this $500 a month thing where it's the 1% of whatever, right?
I think if you're going to pay $500 for something, you should just like hire a matchmaker, right? One that's affordable, that will bring you some, great candidates. Don't waste your time, do some events, like do whatever, right? And that would be my advice, right? $500 is a lot of damn money for like something that you're not sure that you can get great results on, right? I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, we agree on that too. Okay, second to last question. This one's the reverse of the one I asked previously. Can you talk about a time, and I know you probably have a lot because doing what you do and being good at it, I mean, come on, right? But can you think about something that stands out in your mind, like as you felt like so rewarded and so good about something that you did with a client or whatever?
I recently was working with one of my clients who who's very shy, right? And this person, was getting very frustrated with life. And one day they snapped at me. We were in a coaching session, and I literally said, "Okay, I want to help you. I'm date coaching you, and I want to continue to do that. But what I will not do is have you like think that you can just say and do anything, because that's not going to work. So what I want you to do is take a step back, and then when you're ready, and you are being sensible, come back to me, right?" And, when the person came back, they apologized. We started working. We were working together for about 6 months. And I could, start coaching them. And one of the things that I had to do is like extend. And I was like, I'm no longer doing date coaching. Now I'm doing life coaching, right, with this person. And we started like getting their, life in order, and shit started to come together. And then, I could see like the joy, the happiness. I could see the progress in this person, right? They were smiling. They could look me in my eyes. Before they couldn't even like look me in my face to say anything. And they were like, they're now very confident, and they're happy, and life is going well. And that to me is what, makes my job is one of the things that makes my job worthwhile. People, they focus on the fact that I do matchmaking, right? And I love doing matchmaking. But I always say that if I couldn't coach people, I wouldn't do this, right? Because this one person is a great example of how, someone paying close attention to who they are and not giving up on them, and me putting myself out there, because I'm doing this for free. I'm not even getting paid to do this, because I see something in this person and I want to help them, right? And so that to me is one of the most rewarding parts of my job. And I'm going to just like put a little plug out there. I won an award earlier this year, right, from Brains Magazine for coaching, relationship coach of the year. So as much as I love matchmaking, I'm a badass coach, let me tell you. And I love spending time doing that.
No, I mean that's incredible, and I think just from this hour we spent together, I mean you clearly deserve it, and that's amazing. So congratulations on that. Well deserved, obviously. Final question, and I don't feel like you have to give away the whole manual, okay? But like we're gonna get out of here, but before we do, can you give them just like some simple advice if they're queer, if they're straight, if they're alien, if they're whatever, like a black person, a white person, polyamorous, just some basic foundational but from you, from the heart, advice on how to get out there and make it count in the dating world.
I'd say like start with like knowing who you are and what you want, right? And then the other part too is just have fun, right? Not everything has to be serious. Like start with like, I just want to have fun, And if something comes of that, then I'm cool. But if nothing comes of that, I'm okay with that too, right? I'll just keep it moving, because, you have to go through a lot of no's in life, and, but eventually you'll hit your yes. And to me, once you hit that yes, then that's what makes the world, so much better, and it makes it different, right? And, so don't be afraid of like, the rejections, especially on dating apps. Nobody really cares, right? But don't be afraid of the rejections, and just wait for your yes, but don't give up, right? And I see that, happening with people. They give up too soon. But trying to find your long-term partner, is a lot of stuff. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. So that's what I would say. Like, know who you are, know what you're looking for, and go out there with the intent of, I'm going to have a good time. If I meet someone, cool. If not, I'm going to be all right no matter what, because I'm good with me.
Oh my God, Daphney Poyser. Thank you so much for being on Sex Party. I'm lit up. Just you in general, just your energy is like so motivating. Right. And I'm in a relationship. I don't need your services or whatever, but I just feel motivated to, I don't know, go and do something awesome. Right. So I want to thank you for that and for being on the show. And I also want you to tell them where they can find you on social, where they can work with you.
Yeah, I mean, you can find us on our website. It's like fernconnections.com, and everywhere else it's pretty Fern Connections. And then if you Google me or look me up under Daphney Poyser, you'll find me everywhere, right? But let me just say, even if you're not looking for a matchmaker, I mean, and you're just looking to date or whatever that is, like, hit us up. I have clients that, they like what we do, and we just like match them with people so they can continue to date. And it's a hell of a lot better than using a dating app. Let me tell you that. So we're cool with that too.
Oh my God. You are so cool. Seriously. I hope you will come back. In the future, I'd love to do another episode with you, collab on something. But until then, thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed this.
Of course. I can't wait to have you back. Big thank you to Daphney Poyser from Fern Connections. You guys, do yourself a favor. Go follow her on Instagram. Go work with her if you need the work, right? Go check her out. If you want to see Daphney again, she will be coming back. We talked about multiple collaborations coming up because I just think, like I said before, she's innovative and rock and roll, right? If you're loving guests like Daphney, if you want to see more guests like Daphney, and you want to show some love, some appreciation, some desire for more Sex Party, how do you do that? If you're listening on platforms like Apple and Spotify, you can subscribe to the show. That's the most important. If you want to, you could leave a rating, you could leave a review. You don't have to. If you're watching on YouTube, I love you. I see you. I appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel. You can like this video. You can leave comments on all the videos. As always, you guys can reach out to me in the DMs on Instagram, and I will see you all back here next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter @SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin @DustinRybka.